The rain was coming down in sheets, pounding against the rooftops and windows of the houses in Mill Hollows. Thunder shook the ground, and lightning illuminated the sky, casting eerie shadows across the deserted streets. It was the kind of night where people huddled together with their loved ones, grateful for the warmth and safety of their homes. But one man was out in the storm, wandering the streets alone. George was a strange figure, with wild eyes that seemed to glow in the darkness. He was a conspiracy theorist, always talking about government cover-ups and secret alien agendas. Most people avoided him, but tonight, nobody was out to avoid him. George had always been obsessed with the idea that extraterrestrial beings were living among them, watching and waiting. He had spent countless hours poring over conspiracy theories and supposed evidence, piecing together a picture of the universe that few others could comprehend. And while most people dismissed him as a crackpot, George knew that there was something out there, something that the government and the media were keeping hidden from the public. For weeks, George had been warning the people of Mill Hollows that something big was coming. He talked about strange lights in the sky and eerie noises in the woods. He claimed that the government was hiding something and that they were all in danger. He would approach people on the street, his eyes wide with fear, his voice shaking with urgency. But nobody took him seriously. They thought he was just another crazy person ranting about aliens and government secrets. But now, as people began to disappear one by one, the town was starting to believe that George might have been right all along. There were no clues, no signs of a struggle or a break-in. People were simply gone, leaving behind empty homes and bewildered families. The first to go was Mrs. McGee, the town librarian. She was a kind-hearted woman, well-liked by all who knew her. But one day, she simply didn't show up for work. Her car was still in the parking lot, and her purse was still on the front seat. But she was nowhere to be found. The police searched the surrounding area, but there was no sign of her. The next to disappear was a teenage boy named Kevin. He was a troublemaker, always getting into fights and causing mischief around town. But despite his flaws, he was still a human being, and his disappearance was just as unsettling as Mrs. McGee's. His parents reported him missing when he failed to come home from a night out with friends. The police searched the woods where he had last been seen, but there was no sign of him either. As more and more people went missing, the town began to feel like a ghost town. Nobody went out after dark, and nobody dared to venture into the woods or the abandoned buildings on the outskirts of town. They locked their doors and windows, praying that whatever was taking their friends and neighbors would pass them by. It wasn't until the last few survivors realized the truth that they understood what was really happening. George was an alien being, living among them and using his wild-eyed conspiracy theories as a cover-up for his true mission. He was abducting humans and gathering information about their behavior and their world. At first, it was hard for the survivors to believe. They had all known George for years, and he had never shown any signs of being anything other than a strange but harmless man. But as the evidence piled up, they could no longer deny the truth. As the storm raged on, the remaining survivors gathered their strength and began to plan their next move. They knew they couldn't stay in Mill Hollows, not with George still out there somewhere. They had to leave, but where could they go? One of the survivors, a man named Jack, had a plan. He had always been an outdoorsman, and he knew the area well. He suggested that they head for the nearby national park, where they could find shelter and resources to survive. The others agreed, and they quickly gathered what supplies they could carry and set out into the storm. It was a perilous journey, with the rain pounding down and the wind whipping around them. But they pushed on, driven by the need to escape the horror of their former home. As they trudged through the woods, they heard strange noises and saw eerie lights in the sky. They knew that George was still out there, searching for them. But they also knew that they couldn't give up. They had to keep moving, keep searching for safety. Finally, after hours of walking, they reached the national park. They were exhausted and soaked to the bone, but they were alive. They found a sheltered spot beneath a rocky overhang and huddled together, trying to stay warm and dry. For days, they survived on the resources they found in the park. They built shelter, hunted for food, and gathered firewood. They were a small community, bonded together by their shared trauma and their determination to survive. But even in the safety of the national park, they couldn't forget the horror they had experienced in Mill Hollows. They knew that George was still out there, and they wondered if they would ever be truly safe again. As the days turned into weeks, the survivors began to heal. They formed friendships and relationships, finding comfort in each other's company. They even started to dream about the future, imagining a life beyond the horror of their past. But their peace was short-lived. One day, while out hunting, they stumbled upon something that filled them with dread. It was a strange structure, hidden deep in the woods. It was like nothing they had ever seen before, and they knew that it could only be the work of George. They knew then that they had to act. They couldn't let George continue his mission of gathering information and abducting humans. They had to take him down, once and for all. So they formed a plan. They would lure George into the national park, where they could trap him and take him by surprise. It was risky, but they knew they had to try. And so they waited. They set up traps and hiding spots, watching and waiting for the alien among them. And finally, he came. George appeared in the national park, looking for his next victim. But the survivors were ready for him. They sprang their trap, catching him by surprise and overwhelming him with sheer numbers. In the end, they managed to take down George and destroy his strange structure. They knew that they would never forget the horror of their past, but they also knew that they had found a new family and a new hope for the future. They had survived the unthinkable, and they would never take their safety and freedom for granted again. There was a strange lady in town, and her mere presence sent shivers down the spines of the townsfolk. Her unkempt hair and tattered clothes spoke of a life lived on the fringes of society, and her eyes held secrets that no one dared to uncover. She was a recluse, living in a rundown shack at the edge of town, but it was said that she was deeply entrenched in all sorts of conspiracies and dark secrets. The people of the town whispered about her, warning each other to stay away from her. They said that she spent her days unraveling the mysteries of the world, but it was unclear whether she was a hero or a villain. Despite their superstitions, many people were drawn to her, lured by the intrigue that surrounded her. But they never dared to approach her, afraid of what they might uncover. One dark and stormy night, the strange lady decided to venture out of her shack. She walked through the streets of the town, and as she did, the wind howled through the streets like a chorus of ghosts. As she walked, she sensed a strange energy that seemed to be guiding her towards a remote location. It was a place she had never seen before, and it seemed to be hidden from the rest of the world. The trees grew tall and twisted, and the air was thick with the stench of decay. As she approached the location, she realized that the town she lived in had a dark secret. The people would kill to keep it, and the strange lady had stumbled on something that was beyond her wildest conspiracies. The ground beneath her feet seemed to tremble as she stood there, stunned by what she had seen. She knew that she could not keep the secret to herself. She had to do something to let the world know about what was happening in that town. Despite her fear, the strange lady gathered all her courage and began to gather evidence of the town's secret. She ventured into places that no one else would dare to go, and she saw things that would haunt her for the rest of her life. Finally, she went to the media and told the world what she had seen, despite the fact that it put her life at risk. Her story made headlines, and the town was exposed for the darkness that had been hidden for so long. The people of the town were not pleased with what she had revealed. They turned on her, and the strange lady was forced to flee for her life. But she had done what she believed was right, and the town was exposed for the horrors that lay beneath the surface. Years later, the strange lady's name became a legend. Some said that she was a hero, others that she was a madwoman. But one thing was certain: the town would never be the same again. And in the dark corners of the world, there are whispers of a strange lady who stood up to the dark forces that were lurking within that small town.
I hope you enjoy the content I upload. If you like what I'm doing, why not think about clicking on the subscribe button to keep up to date on my uploads. Thank you all for the great support.
It was a hot and humid Tuesday afternoon in the bustling newsroom of the Washington Post. Young journalist Emma sat at her desk, her mind consumed with the story she had been tirelessly working on for weeks. This was not just any ordinary story, it was one that would shake the very foundations of society. Emma had uncovered the most sensational of secrets. The US government had been concealing real-life extraterrestrial beings among the general population, keeping their existence hidden from the public eye. It had taken her months of research and digging, but Emma had finally collected irrefutable evidence that would reveal the government's long-held secret. As she was about to submit her final draft of the story, the ringing of her phone startled her. She hesitated for a moment before answering it, not recognizing the number. "Emma," a voice whispered, sending a chill down her spine. "You must stop. You're in grave danger." The caller identified himself as a member of a secret government agency tasked with keeping the aliens under control. Emma's heart pounded in her chest as she listened to the voice on the other end, warning her to back down from her investigation. But Emma was not one to cower in the face of danger. She was determined to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. She brushed off the caller's warning and set out to reveal the story to the world. The next morning, Emma set off for the Washington Post, her hands shaking with excitement and nerves. She never made it to the office. On a deserted back road, her car was forced off the road by an unidentified vehicle, causing it to overturn. Emma was killed instantly. The police initially dismissed her death as a tragic accident, attributing it to drunk driving. However, as rumors began to circulate about her untimely demise, the Washington Post launched an inquiry into the incident. They found no concrete evidence to support the rumors, but the whispers of conspiracy continued to haunt Emma's legacy. Decades later, classified documents were declassified, confirming what Emma had risked everything to expose: that the US government had been hiding real-life aliens among the population. But Emma's story remained buried and forgotten, a tragic memory lost to the depths of history. She had been a brave journalist, willing to uncover the darkest of secrets, and her legacy deserved to be remembered.